This will be the vehicle of our revolution. Dear YouTube creators, it is over. YouTube is not what you thought it was or used to be. Read the writing on the wall. They got rid of the far right, Red Ice, James Awesome, Tommy Robinson, David Duke, Alex Jones. But once you get rid of the far right, the moderate right becomes the new far right. So Steven Crowder, Salty, Mark Dice, Paul Joseph Watson, even stuff like Decordering, Geeks and Gamers, Yellow Flash, Tug, EVS, Diversity in Comics, and all the rest of the channels that are vaguely on the wrong thinkers list, well, that's the face of the new far right. So now if you're fighting the far right and you want to get rid of them, you got to get rid of those guys. And it continues on. Even if you're just a milquetoast normie channel that talks about how bad films and comics are, you're on the wrong thinker list. You're criticizing the narrative. The Google narrative is a bunch of coke-snorting globalists. Someone just sent me an instant message. Apparently today is Transgender Visibility Day. So they were invisible the rest of the year. These are super far left people. If you laugh at the nonsense of the alt-left, YouTube is going to get rid of you. Yeah, Paul Joseph Watson is a poop lord, but there's a guy like Thorius Unlimited with about 40,000 subs. He's just a normie nice guy who laughs at SJWs. Right now he's making fun of Batwoman, which is an SJW show with a woman of C, WOC in the lead, a lesbian woman of C, so a super purse puppy. Now the trans Twitter commie clan don't watch Batwoman because nobody watches it. It's garbage. But they like the idea of the show. Twitter bolshies just want comics and shows to exist. They think that you should watch them because you're literally the Austrian corporal, but you need to be shown how dumb you are. You need to be educated. Of course, the people saying that can't give you the definition of a woman or tell you when life begins, but sure, we need to be educated. But even criticizing Batgirl is going to eventually get this guy kicked off. Go to the YouTube Explore page. All that stuff is the future of YouTube. Guys doing makeup videos, cat videos, and pretty girls making protein shakes while wearing yoga pants. To be fair, there won't be a ton of videos pushing the worst of the SJW cancer because it's just too obviously bad. Nobody's watching some of these shows. Oh, hey Mike. The most SJW pop culture channels can do is talk about the old comics. Anything in the last 20 years is suspiciously absent. YouTube could get rid of all the stuff that we listen to, and it's not going to hurt Google's bottom line at all. YouTube used to be something pretty different. Even pre-2016, it was a platform for individuals broadcasting out of their bedroom, pretty much. It is completely different now. They want to make it a mainstream platform that is profitable, basically corporate mainstream TV. Except the reason we're on YouTube is because TV is mainstream corporate cancer. You won't get diversity and comics on TV. A guy who reads comics in the lap of his car with a Samsung. We don't want fake laugh tracks and Blonde Man Bad. We want a guy in his Hyundai Del Sol filming his crotch. No homo. YouTube is turning into mainstream left-wing Bolshevik TV. They will ruin YouTube. It will be a version of interactive TV, but you can see that they're getting rid of the interactive stuff. The President of the United States has his comments turned off, and they're taking away the dislike button. So it's corporate TV that you can access on your phone, which means that there is a vacuum where YouTube used to be. Let me not bury the lead here. Go to Gab TV, Odysee, BitChute, and Dlive right now while you have the strength of numbers. Hang together or hang separately. It's time to find your tribe and your in-group preference. There are a few hundred wrong thinkers on YouTube, and it doesn't matter if you're Nick Fuentes or EVS, you're all Nazis to the left. There is this tendency on the conservative alt-light to immediately disavow and bend over. Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, Dan Crenshaw are not on the right. They're on the left, but they're on the side of their corporate masters. You can be like Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers and wave your rainbow flag and say how you disavow the guy 1 millimeter to the right of you. It won't help you. The left already hates you. Now the right does also. Fence sitters are the softest soy boy pussies. And if I said this 2 years ago, the idea of getting off YouTube, getting on the alt tech, the idea would be poo-pooed and eschewed. But the writing is on the wall. Tim Pool, Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes, Mark Dice, PJW. They've got a few dollars. They can create a platform for all, sort of like an Odysee with the goal of free speech. Let the customer decide what they want to listen to. If the top wrong thinkers on YouTube create a new platform or simply go to Gab TV and Odysee and BitChute, they have the ability to pull enough people with them to make the platform viable. BitChute and Odysee Dlive are merely temporary reprieves, but Gab TV might be the real deal. The thing is, someone said library is part owned by Google, so Odysee won't be free speech for long. Yeah, it doesn't matter. YouTube is dog feathers right now. Go somewhere else now while you build a new platform. Odysee is probably the model. It seems to do everything right. So create a new Odysee with the dogma of free speech as a foundation. There's a need for a video hosting live streaming platform that believes in diversity of thought. Of course, the people who control the banks and media are terrified of free speech, and they won't allow PayPal or Patreon to work with a free speech platform, and that is where the crypto comes in. And the more important issue is publicly naming and talking about these media owners and bankers who want to shut down free speech. That is an issue the public needs to be made aware of. There are these very wealthy, powerful people who don't want you to have free speech. To find out who rules you, find out who you can't criticize. And why does that trigger people? You enter that search term into the YouTube search engine. Oddly enough, it won't come up with anything. LOL. They are kicking you off YouTube one by one. If EVS gets kicked off, he can go to alt media and he can bring some of his audience. But if 100 of these top YouTube people get together, all of a sudden, you've got the birth of something new. But there's sort of a game theory thing going on. Nobody wants to give up that sweet YouTube cheese, but if you form the YouTube Wrong Thinkers People's Army, again, that's our vehicle, if you get that reference. You can all go somewhere together. YouTube is only going to get worse. Censorship is a one-way journey. And just imagine mounting like a .30 caliber on the top of that. When they kicked off Alex Jones, oh, sweet Jesus, you had to know that YouTube was over. Not only that, but they kicked him off all the platforms. Doesn't that seem a little creepy? Like maybe these platforms have gotten a little bit too powerful? Alex Jones did a humorous take on the news, but he helped Trump get elected, so he had to be punished. The puppet masters don't like it when the puppets attempt to cut the cords. There was a sort of social contract with regulation and social media, and people blame Trump for sitting on his fat ass, but we have 500 people in a different branch of government that all sat with their thumbs up their asses. Guys, I don't know how to break it to you, but nobody is coming to save us but us. No, Ted Cruz or Rand Paul are not going to do anything. Our government is the problem, not the solution. We are the solution. And we need to talk about it, but the new town square is owned and controlled by Bolsheviks who blindly obey the ADL. Now, who's that guy? PewDiePie? He had some balls. Credit to him for trolling the ADL. Look at where we were in terms of liberty, where we are now, and what the future holds. If I read some documents of the Founding Fathers, I'd be kicked off social media, and the FBI would probably come to my house and murder me. Yeah, I know, I'm supposed to talk about Spider-Boy and Disney Wars, and that is relevant because all these things... I can't look at your fucking ugly face any longer. Because all these things are, sorry for the swearing, are facets of the crystal. The central issue of free speech and why these Bolsheviks want to decide what ideas you may entertain. There's a name for people without free speech. They're called slaves. What is worse is the people who want to censor you, these puppet masters, are the literal most evil people on earth. People who take trips to an island with a guy who didn't delete himself. These NGOs have more power to decide an election than we the people. And actually, Cecil made an interesting video about that. Who controls the dissemination of information? The media. They control the narrative. They rule the world. The rise of social media took the power out of our hands and put it in the hands of Google, Apple, and Zuckerberg. If we don't take the power of free speech back, we're